Did you hit it?
There we go.
Take 3 votes.
3 votes.
Yeah.
Show them. Just
So,
show them. Yes.
hello.
Hey.
Made it.
Pick a comfortable chair.
I'm good.
Do
you want me to sit with the?
Well, do you know Craig Bailey?
No. Well, I may. No, actually, I do because he was in our class and I was taking notes.
Yeah.
I think.
Here's good. We're just gonna let you sit and
Okay.
turn. And
Oh, yeah.
Well, you'll have to say what you want.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
Hey. Here's.
Yeah.
Here's. Okay. There it goes.
Hello,
Hello, Hudson Alpha.
right?
Sorry?
Teaching shall be.
Right.
That's
That's right. That's right. We're doing it here because it's wired to do this.
Yeah.
Team meeting. We're
She
shooting with
like,
Hudson
I
Alpha.
started playing soccer this fall. I really liked it.
Hey, Hudson Alpha.
I really liked dance. They wanted to do it.
I know some of them were traveling. Not
Yeah.
I wanted to do it too, but
Oh. So
eventually.
how's everything going with you?
crazy. Always.
Addie's, the 5-year-old, she's,
Can you see? Yes.
No.
Oh, heard that. Hello, Ada.
She,
Can you hear us?
she's doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, we're not getting that feedback this time.
Okay. That's good.
So I think we're doing well. Awesome.
Yeah, they're all sweet kids. Addie's very active. She's 5. Everything is very
Do
calm.
this perhaps right here.
So,
That's probably good balance.
Okay, we'll be starting in just a couple minutes.
All right. Sounds great.
Super. Hey there. Come on down.
I hate that picture.
You do?
They're walking.
You can have a, how about a comfortable seat right there?
They're walking and making to it.
Yeah, where you go? We're still filing in?
We took the class with you, right?
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yes.
probably about time too.
Yeah, you do.
Sometimes we could use you every year. How's everything going?
Good.
When did you take the position? When did you take your career?
Are you still living over like last year?
Last year.
Oh,
I just moved to,
Yeah.
I knew the park, so right behind Freedom.
Oh,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
walking distance. I already thought I was going to maybe. Eventually I'm just gonna, take over. Yeah.
I was
No,
shower works and then he's looking at
Oh, no, legit, like when I had a friend. So you're in the molecular solar in a hospital, which is, my lab.
The vision of the
It's actually, in UAB building for about 4 days. Because I just went to shower there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I blew up in my office. It was the most, probably healthy. But, hey, go to this round, you know. I want to put my one. That's sweet.
I'm still trying to shake procrastination.
So this is just going to be
This is one
free
go.
fire.
I was talking about yeah, I was thinking about time
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, no, I think Hudson Alpha left. Oh, it's an empty room. Oh, well. Perhaps they'll come back. Well, thanks all for coming by. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
I'm back.
Good. Well, today is always, I think, probably the most fun of all the classes for this course, where you all get to pick the brains of some new faculty. And we were just chatting that they together previously postdocs, but also took this course, a few years back now. So this is a be careful what you do. You may end up in these seats in a few years. We'll pick your brains. Hey guys, come on in. So before I turn it over to them both, any questions from last week? Donna Williamson probably scared us all with her safety stories and so on. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm hoping Hudson Alpha can still hear us. And certainly if there are any questions, just to shout out. I think we got the feedback.
I don't see you right now. I don't see your screen.
You don't see our it's just one slide. So as long as you can hear us, that's the main thing.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
We are in a different room today, so I just sent an email to the Postdocs so that they find this room.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get going. So our guest speakers, if you will, today. Okay. Dr. Sarah Yar Fisher, hoping I said that correctly, and Dr. Craig Mason.
And the rest.
And we're going to go ahead.
All right, thank you.
And you can mute ourselves and you can share.
Okay.
Okay.
Or start
Okay.
punching.
Okay. We're going to ask you each to give a brief bio, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A. And how about we do this at the outset? If we could just go around the room and introduce yourself so that they can get to know you and where you're at. We'll start with you in the front. Yes.
I'm Ankita, and I'm a postdoc at the CS Center Pulmonary Care.
First year, second year?
And my third year. My PI actually just moved here, so I've been with him. This is my third year with him. But I'm actually
Ben Caston in the Department of Radiology. This is my second year as a postdoc.
Adriana, Department of Radiology, for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm Jill Richter with the Departments of Anesthesiology and Pathology in 6 years, 5.5 years.
I'm Mitch in genetics. This is my second year postdoc.
I'm Sid. Yeah, sorry. I'm Sid. I'm in third year postdoc. I'm in cancer genetics.
I'm Brittany, first year postdoc in cardiology.
Tony, I'm second year postdoc in psychiatry and behavioral lab.
Joe Fidesca, second year postdoc, pathology.
Urlado, I've only a couple of months with my postdoc at Info. I'm Department of Neurobiology.
You said neurobiology?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm Stephanie. I'm in the Department of Pediatrics, and I'm a little over a year and a half in. I'm Jessica Schofield, starting my 5th year. I'm in pediatric dentistry and microbiology.
Hi, I'm Venki Muthyam. Have been a postdoc for 3.5 years and just recently got promoted to instructor. And I'm in the Department of Pulmonary and Critical Care Medicine.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Sparkle Williams. I'm in the Department of Pediatrics, and I just started my 3rd year.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehab in medical school, and I took this position almost a year ago. So in November, it's going to be my finishing up my 1st year. And I was a postdoc here for 3 years in cell biology. Well, there's a bigger name for that, but yes, CDIB. And before that, I did my PhD at Auburn, and it was in a neuromechanics program. It was more neuro-oriented. And I trained as a physical therapist. And I did the professional degree first, but not academic degree second. So it took me a little bit longer where I want to get, where I want to be. So I started my lab last April 2016, and I hired the lab manager within the same month.
but we'll talk about that, I guess. Sure. Yeah.
So I'm Craig. I've been an assistant professor of pathology for a little over a year. Actually, like I said, like Lisa said, my postdoc here is the case weaver. So I'm trained as a microbial immunologist. My research more or less centered around pathogen regulation and the post microbial responses in IBD. So I guess we've been getting into some of this, but the one thing that I think is kind of encouraging for me is there's so many of you guys are really early on in your postdocs, because I think one of the things when they not that if you later it's a problem, but the thing I remember most about postdoc is how much time I'd gone by before I realized how much time I'd gone by. And so I guess the advice to people now is you really need to start planning the next step as soon as you start postdoc. So that part of me is really encouraging. When we took this class, we were all towards the end. And I was either doing a job that we had to do about this stuff.
Great. So I'll start off with a question just to get the ball rolling. Talk about your job search process and that whole interview and what that was like.
So,
Sure. So I started searching for jobs during my third year. So what happened with me was that I got a postdoc grant during my second year. It was 1 year study, but it took of course longer, so we extended the study, and then I was able to finish it during the third year. But I didn't want to really do job search during the second year when I was actually doing my study for the grant. So I was kind of maybe late doing the job search on the third year. You may want to start it during the end of second year if you're doing a 3-year postdoc, of course. So my dilemma was with the same like you had, should I leave my postdoc institution and go somewhere else and start fresh? Because all the mentors that I know here, I know them. We do similar studies, and I wanted to be more independent. Although I wasn't doing the same research with my mentor, it was still a thought in my mind that I should really leave and see different places and collaborate with different people. And I started actually interviewing smaller schools, bigger schools, and at the end of the day, it came to a point that UAB has so many opportunities for everyone in terms of collaboration, centers, cores, the science that we're doing here. And I'm in medical school, and I do medical type of research. My research focuses on spinal cord injury, neuro recovery, and metabolic health. So there are really maybe 5 or 6 centers around the nation that who does the quality of work we can do here. So it come to a point, maybe I shouldn't leave and then stay here and do the science that I want to do. And I received a CARE award at that time, and it helped the negotiations, the lab, and everything. So I decided to stay here.
So I'm in the same way. I don't record here in postdoc. I started looking at jobs. And the biggest problem I found, and this may have been due part to the places I was looking at jobs at, was the money talks. At the end of the day, it really helps when you go into job search to have affordable funding that institutions that you're applying to find attractive. Now, not every institution has those requirements for obvious reasons. It's a competitive thing, and it's pushback, and some institutions just can't afford to be that aggressive about how much they require you to come. But it's just not going to be a bad thing to, have some of that security. So what I did was, so I started applying for jobs, and the thing I would say is you got to send out a lot of applications. You know a few places where it will be a tree based on your science and how well your science will fit. But that's a place where you realize that you're smart enough and you're flexible enough to adjust your research program such that it fits in that environment. The thing that I struggled with, the most unexpected thing for me about the application process was I thought that I would write a research statement and that would work for every job application. And you wind up writing it 20 times because you really got to tailor this thing to whatever institution you're applying to. And so the job search was more as a job within itself. And so, in doing that, like I said, you send these applications, some people respond and tell you, thank you, and some say we get back to you, and some actually write the reviews. And so then, when you find yourself in a situation where it's it seems to me that obviously that the higher end, the higher tier institutions, the more well-known institutions, the competition was really, you knew your competition was, and you also knew where you were sprinting. The challenge there was to really try to convince people how well, your research program could, benefit from an environment. So that's you on the science side. And then for me, the other thing that I encountered was on the personal side. So I'm sure we all, I don't know your individual stories, but everybody has a life. Everybody has, I'm sure people have families and people have circumstances that, are going to have to play into this. I work in the Caribbean. My wife she's from a different island, but she's from the Caribbean too. I was pursued very aggressively by a school in upstate New York, where it's freezing 70%. I went back to the second, I remember when I went back to my second interview, and I realized that it was just me. I didn't know that it wasn't going to happen because it wasn't going to get no number my wife. And so she wouldn't even go with me on this anymore. But my point is, so as you're going into this, you got to, your science is what's going to sell you. But there's no, I really should not have wasted my time applying for that job because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to take it. So again, because it's a job within a job, I think it's a personal choice. You may decide, well, whatever works, but I would advise that if there's a situation where you know that for whatever reason this job is going to work for you, and unless you just so hard, I just would not waste my time with some of those things. So be very efficient with the process. And if you're somebody who's able to cast a white, more power to you because I think it's more very. But I mean, you still got to be a massive leg, and you still got to be pushing your project and getting your stuff. So there's more basically got to do. And so if you know for sure that that's not going to be something for you, but
just a quick note, you just reminded me about something. So when you apply for jobs, there would be smaller schools, very small programs, but you have the idea that you're going to be a big PI one day, right? I mean, you will have whatever institution and whatever type of funding you're looking for. It was NIH for me. So I applied for smaller schools too with the hope that there are smaller NIH grants that I can get there and then start my program. So you have to just make a strategy for yourself. If you're applying for an Ivy League or higher level schools, obviously you cannot apply for those NIH grants, and then there would be an RL1 type of grants for you there. But then if you're applying for a smaller school, there would be other foundations or smaller NIH grants. So my dilemma was that, so the smaller schools I applied, I got interviews and a couple of them offered me the job. The problem is that when we sit down, and then my husband is a faculty too, and it's another barrier, of course, when you're applying for jobs. It was really hard for us to recruit it as a package unless we both have R01s. So that's the way it goes in big schools. Or you have a K or he has an R01. But so when we sit down and think about those small schools, you know, I think about, they're very generous. They're like, we'll give you a startup, we'll give you a lab, we'll give you PhD students, which is really, really gold, you know, because not every school offers a startup, a lab, and a PhD or a postdoc. But the problem is they're investing maybe a couple thousand or $500,000 on you, but you really cannot see the future in terms of, in the small school, in the small department, no collaboration opportunities. Will NIH see this? Will they trust that this institution will have $1 million grant and be able to operate that grant, to operate that budget? So there are so many logistical things you need to think about, and then you just need to be honest to yourself and honest to the department, saying, look, you're very generous, but I don't know if I can take on this much responsibility. You're just investing on me. It's an investment. They are spending their money on you. But then you don't know if really this will pay out in whatever you want to do in the future. You need to be honest and just say, no, maybe it's not, and you can just maybe get a little startup, little less salary, and maybe harder start in a bigger school, but you have better chances to become a bigger PI. So, but you may, I mean, you may not want to be a PI, you just want to teach or something, whatever your goal is, so you need to just think about it. My goal was research PI, so that was a dilemma for me when I was interviewing.
So I have a quick question. You guys are talking, you know, like affordable funding, and getting funding, and I know, like, I think a lot of us are aiming to get like a K99 R1 kind of deal, but for that you have to have a named mentor and have like a training plan. So how do you, like, I guess, how do you kind of do that? Like, you know, like if you're, you know, like say I'm getting to the end of my postdoc here and I am planning on going somewhere else, but I don't yet have an offer because they want to see if I have funding, so I want to make an application that is addressing that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, Lisa could probably answer this any better than anyone else can, but the thing I say about the funding is it helps to have it regarding the survival market, okay? Obviously, the types of grants and how much the premium the higher institution puts on it varies from place to place. I'll tell you this, and I don't know anybody who wanted to do this, like seriously wanted to do it and took steps to it and didn't get to do it, and that's the reality. I mean, if there's any company you can think of, say everybody who I know wanted to be a researcher and have a lab. So everybody who I don't know, I don't know as many people as this. I haven't known anybody who hadn't come to do it, okay? Yeah. So I really do think as tough as times are, if you want to, I'm just saying that the funding, it really does help. And what you do, you really go about it is, you know, you can't start on your funding unless you got a good idea and you demonstrate that you're going to be able to push this, right? Mm-hmm. But, and so there's some people that would, so for example, when I was applying, I had a career development work in private foundation. So what that does is, what I did was it covered my entire salary and I had supplied my entire salary and supplied for like 3 years.
Excuse me, Craig. Hudson Alpha is asking if you can speak up a little bit, or if you want to come over to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries, no worries. We'll switch.
It's that accent, sorry. So I had, like I said, a career development award from private foundation. It wasn't NIH. It paid no indirects, meaning no matter where I took it, the university got nothing. But they would allow me to keep it. So it I guess in some ways would form part of my startup. So nobody was really impressed by that when you applying for jobs. Okay, you have some money for your lab, that's what it meant. But the other people, the other institutions were, okay, it's nice because one's demonstrated that you've applied for and you successfully, gotten research funding. And so I knew that when I'm interviewing at a place and there's a flyer in the elevator for the guy or the lady who's interviewing next week, and I know them, and I know that that's an R1 investigator, well, I kind of know what I'm up against. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to, like, don't get nervous about the funding issue. I think if you do the things that you need to do, you apply for funding, you get it or you don't. It helps if you have it, but there are opportunities, there are positions, really good positions at good institutions to where you're going to be okay. I just can't not encourage you to do it because it really, really makes such a difference.
So for me, I'm pretty sure Lisa covered this before, or at least when we were taking the class, it was a very trendy thing to do the IPS, what, the IP?
IDP?
IDP, yeah. So I literally sit down and do an IDP. I did an IDP with my mentor when I first started my postdoc. And I thought it wasn't very useful when I first heard about it, but then when we actually start going through everything, it gave us a perspective that my goal was becoming a research PI. In order to do that, I better start getting some funding during my postdoc other than a T32 funding. T30 is a competitive process still. It's good, but you know, just start with something that you think your ideas are good, and let's try it in the bigger scheme, what they're going to see. So I got the funding, and the next step was literally using that pilot data, what I had in postdoc, towards a K award or an RO1. And in my time, which was almost now 2 years ago, when I was at that stage writing the grant, and there were ideas that you should go for a smaller RO1 as a good postdoc with the funding, and there were other ideas that you should go for a career development award. And I thought career development would be the best fit for me, and I decided that I would go write it and then use my data. But not everyone has pilot data to write a K award with, and you don't have to. It's just a matter of you are really showing them that you want to become a research PI, you want to become an independent researcher. You don't want to be, you know, relying on your mentors or other collaborators all the time. You want to extend your research horizon. And if you believe in that, you will write that way, and the reviewers will capture it when they're reading. And they're like, okay, fine, she doesn't have pilot data, but she has this good plan, good mentoring program already designed. And if you're in a big institution, I mean, for K awards, it's the key. You've got to be at a good institution that you can get good training, good mentoring. But there are foundation grants you can always look for. They are not necessarily as long as K awards, that's 5 years or so, or maybe not full salary or 70% salary coverage, but there are other opportunities there. But I think the answer to your question is planning is really the big part of it. Because if you have a plan, then you just follow it, and then it's ready for you when you're ready.
So if I could ask real quick, before you guys, how many people have actually written a research fellowship or has some funding currently that? but I guess my point is that's where you start, because the thing, the thing with grant writing is that's like with everything. I mean, you just gotta keep doing it, you know, and the efforts we've made. So you know, that's the start, and the position you're aiming for, or the position you're aiming for, you know what it's going to take to get there. I mean, this isn't, we don't know any, like I said, there's nothing I know about this that I just been through it, but I mean, you understand that if you want to get to that point, it helps to have this funding, and it helps to be able to demonstrate over the course of your postdoc that you have successfully competed for research funding, whatever the source. I mean,
so, and this is probably a very specific to me kind of question. So, like, I applied for program 32 and did not get it because I stayed in the same postdoc lab as I did my PhD, or finished my PhD in. And so what I've been doing is actually the projects that I'm working on are, you know, my PI is great and gives me a lot of autonomy, And so I've been writing our 21 grants, but because I'm a postdoc, we are not putting them in, like, number one, they can't be in my name at UAB, but also, you know, having my boss's name on it makes it a little bit more like, oh yeah, they can really do that. So, you know, but I'm the one who wrote the entire grant and will do all the work and all the things, it's just I'm doing it all and things like that. So how do I communicate that to, you know, potential, you know, other positions? Like, because it's really, I did all the work, but it's, my name is not on it, you know?
I would like, you don't want to get
I would say the mentor then has to step in and write a very strong letter of saying, this is her idea, she wrote this, it's funded, she's done work, this is really her project. And hopefully he's going to also say, and she can take it with her to start her position. That's what you want and need to see.
But I think the point she's making is that in her current position, she can never be the awardee.
Yeah.
Right, no, but she's also saying, how can she show that as productivity to a new position elsewhere?
So the,
go ahead.
It's very quick. In my personal opinion, it's always hard in that case. I mean, it's just PI may be the nicest person in the world, but
yeah, but if this R1 doesn't get funded and my R21 does, like,
I mean, try and separate yourself from that situation is my suggestion for you, as quick as we can, and then because other institutes or your institution really want to see you as a separate person, independent person. Well, I'm pretty sure you are, but they need to see it on paper.
And that's where, too, the IDP can help in terms of starting a conversation and identifying what part of the project you can take.
Yeah, and the segue into that, so Tony and I both started here as grad students back in 2009. And I don't know about her, I got advice from several PIs at the time who said, you have to do multiple postdocs at multiple different universities, separate from your graduate school university to, you know, diversify your, but she and I both stayed at different departments, different labs obviously, but we stayed here, and I know multiple other people have done that, and other, obviously, postdocs who've stayed here, become, you know, so is this just like a UAB phenomenon, or is this like across the board, like a paradigm shift, like keeping it in the family, so to speak?
Go.
You're asking if like staying at the same institution is a UAB thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The answer to that is no, and not because I actually know a number of people who've done it, and in fact there was one PI who he kind of made a comment like that to me, and he said, because I was like, yeah, I said the same thing you just said, and he said, well, no, that's not a big deal. So-and-so did it. And then he goes, yeah, but so-and-so is exceptional, so you should probably be careful. So you're not exceptional.
Yeah, is that like a...
the thing, the truth is, yeah, there is something to be said. There's tremendous benefit to be derived from training in multiple, in different environments. I don't dispute that. But it goes back to what I said earlier, right? It's, you got your own personal situation. And I have had to be a firm believer that at the end of the day, good science is going to win out. So I feel that even if that's the situation you find yourself in, where you have, for whatever reason, okay, that you stay in that place, if you're productive and you're doing outstanding science, I have to continue to believe that that's going to rule the day.
Yeah, it speaks for itself.
Right. And so there's really no substitute for being productive, okay? And so, and like you said, you've seen people who've done it. It's not unique to UAB, it's not unique to your department. It's not unique to, biomedical sciences. It does happen. And the other thing that I was a little, I'll be honest with you, you go to the local seminars or what have you, and you hear the people who got the MD at UAB and they did the fellowship at UAB, and they, the intern and did the fellowship, and then they joined the faculty. And it seems like the criticism isn't as strong for people who went the medical route as it is for people who went
Yeah, I
the
just didn't know. I didn't know if it was just like a paradigm shift that happened in the last like 15 years.
Part of the reason was,
or if it's like economics.
but part of, another reason for it, like there was an economic downturn, and in my opinion, all the postdocs seem to be in demand. There are a lot of labs shutting down. You know, I had a friend who actually took a position as a postdoc, and then a PI had to lock it down, and so she had gone to she had gone to WashU for this postdoc, and then wound up back in the city where she did her PhD, and got married and went into industry and that kind of stuff because that thing shut down. She wanted to be a PI, and just having gone through that experience, she was like, well, she didn't want to do that again. It's really not unique. I think a few years ago, at least in my experience, it seems like I know more people, and maybe it's because I was going through it, but I know more people who were going through that at the same time. But if you're being successful as a scientist, you're doing good work and you're getting your name out there, you're presenting at meetings, people know who you are. You do the things you can do to offset that. And then the other thing I tell you is when you write your grants, when you submit your biosketch in your personal statement section, to grab the bull by the horns. Any issues that you think someone's going to criticize you for, get out in front of it. Okay, explain that up front, because you got to understand the people that are reviewing your grant, the human beings like you and me. You understand? I mean, and so how heartless am I? If you're sitting there and you for whatever your reason is, okay, I get that, but the science is good. Why do they continue to penalize you for that? And again, they still might, but you can't change you. So what you do, you do those things, you preempt it and get out of those things, and you make your case for you. And that's the best you could do, but I think it'll be very effective.
I feel like I'm preaching the same thing since this started here, this conversation, but the key is really, as far as in my experience, to separate yourself from what lab you're in. And UAB doesn't care if you are doing the research your PI is doing exactly. UAB cares about, can you become someone, can you collect money from NIH or other, wherever they're interested in. But it's just a matter of, you cannot be successful if you're doing the same research with your mentor, because your mentor is highly likely to get the funding before you for that idea. So you're just going to find your way that if you think you're a good scientist doing a good science, you just find a way that separate yourself slowly but surely, and then write your own ideas. And if you receive the awards for those ideas, you will be happy to locate you here. It's not really, I don't think it's a shift or anything. It's just like the matter of, if you're happy here, if you think this will work for you, then work towards it and they will keep you here. I never heard any big PIs, investigators, center directors telling me that, oh, it's not a good thing to stay in UAB. It's just they always said that make sure that you do something different than what you have been doing maybe with your mentor. Then you will have this whole sea of things that you can accomplish in the next 10 years. Because if you're stuck in that area, there would be always a competition with someone that would make your life harder.
And you both did change departments.
We did.
Where they did the postdoc training.
And also, my postdoc training, it worked well for me. It's not for everyone, but I wanted to learn skeletal muscle biology very well for my own disease population. So nobody was doing that research in my lab. My advisor was doing core skeletal muscle biology for a different disease population. So when we sit down and talk about that plan, he said that I think you're safe because you're going to learn the techniques that I'm using here, and then I will teach you. But then you will apply to a different disease population that I won't be even interested in the future. So you can actually make your own path with this. So that was good for me. But again, not every postdoc works that way. We know that. But still, you have some gaps that you can still fill out, and your mentor can help with that too. What would be the hot research area that he's not interested in, but you are moving towards kind of thing. So, question?
Oh, it was on a different topic.
That's okay. We take different topics.
We can change topics.
So
you're thinking about where do you want to go next. And so I think about people I know from meetings and, those connections. But where else would you look for? Like, I feel like people that put them in journals are like desperate at the end, or the ones that pop up on research day. Like, how long have you been trying to fill this? So where's a good place to find the hot, fresh jobs out there?
So for me, when I was doing that, I had my eyes on in certain type of institutions and people. Not necessarily they know me, but I knew them for a while. Other than looking for job listing, I contacted them to tell them that, can I do a sabbatical in your lab? Can I come for it, like give a free symposium, sit in your panels? I have good data, can I show it in your journal club? And, it started the conversation with all these other investigators, and they know people, and you just go to different places, meet with people, and then they always tell you that what you don't know on paper in terms of, we will have a position opening up here, or we will have this opportunity coming up here. Why don't you go to this school, give a talk? That kind of stuff. So other than the job ads, postdoc boards and conferences, or networking opportunities, think about what you want and make connections to these people or their, friends or whatever, and then be involved with them, show them your science and see what they think and if they want you. And because if they want you, if you want them, it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about your next position as a faculty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, I did the same thing. I signed up for all the, I'm getting daily alerts about jobs here. There are all these organizations that do cell career network, science careers. There's this one, somebody turned me on, it's called like Simply Hired. In fact, to this day, I'm still getting those job alerts, because that's the other thing too. I mean, the thing about this job, we are free agents for the rest of your life. And no, it's true. And at the end of the day, if, like I said, if you do well, you're successful, you're marked with for the rest, it happened. But so I would do those things, try to sign up for those kind of things where it comes to you. Because again, like I said, it's my approach to it was the more help I can get finding these things without me having to go look for it. Because again, I'm finishing postdoc, I'm trying to write papers, I'm trying to get on to the next step. I got a family. So any help you could get sourcing that kind of information really helps. The interpersonal communication helps. But I got to tell you, see, I trained with a guy who is very well known. And the mentor is actually, if, beyond just writing a letter, you talk this person into trying to help you sell. They're giving talks, they're presenting some of your data, and they get to the acknowledgement slide, who, by the way, is on the job market, because somebody in the audience may hear something. You see what I'm saying? So you do those things. The people that you like she said, you reach out to them and let them help you with the field. But I'll be honest with you. Most people are going to email them, I'm looking for a job, and they don't have one, then you never really hear from them again. So you're still going to be proactive about it. But I do think that using those sites and having your mentor or people who really know you and believe in you go to bat for you, that's the best you could do. But so yeah, my point is there's no one word answer for how you go about doing it. And
other thing is, so my mentor was very well known, but I really wasn't interested in the jobs that he was finding me, because he's in a different area and I wanted to be in a clinical department. So another thing I did was, there are task forces and special interest groups in your science area. I'm pretty sure everybody's science is different, but there are some type of groups that work towards writing papers, writing educational pages, blogs or something. So these task forces are always directed by bigger PIs, and then there are lower ones, and you work hardest towards that. But that makes you visible to the whole community of your research interest, which means you're working towards something that you don't have to, but then you are doing it because you like your science and you want to make it approachable for people. So that kind of captures attention too. Your name even. So you need to remember, it was actually interesting, it's either coincidence or something, I didn't even check this before, but some of my K reviewers were in the same task forces with me. I never talked to them before. They never was in the phone call, but they always received those emails about, oh, I finished this education page for a position. Can you check it? They never answered it, but they always on this email list. They kept on seeing your name. They know that you're working towards something, in the background. But then one of them ended up being in my K review panel. And I don't know if it worked, but why not, right? If I'm seeing a student saying working hard on something, I would be, I would think that hard worker right there. She doesn't have to do that, but she has been doing it. So there are things in life like that. You may work towards your goals. So make yourself more visible to your area.
I kind of want to move that conversation now sort of to the next step. Can you each talk about your startup?
Sure.
In terms of negotiating for that startup, how it was structured, perhaps? Whoever would like to go.
Oh, so how it was negotiated. So, I mean, I guess one thing that I felt like the negotiation process for me was, I was in a weaker position than I would have liked to. Because not having any funding already, I think you do lose some leverage. Okay. I think because the chair that hired me really did want me and kind of vetted me for almost a year. I think over the course of time and getting to know me, I shouldn't say didn't want me, but he really thought I would fit well in the division. I think the fact that he had vetted me and gotten intimate experience, intimately associated or knowledgeable of my research program, he got to a point where he realized the things that I would have needed to be successful. So in my case, there wasn't a whole lot of negotiation. I thought they were a little more generous than I've heard of institutions being with people who didn't have funding. And so it's turned out to be quite adequate. Another advantage I thought of being here was, staying here, moving to a lab that was vacated by someone who was in my department who basically left a lot of equipment and everything. And so the startup actually, if you think about it, the package actually looks bigger than it actually was in terms of numbers, just because of that opportunity. So I don't really have a lot to add in terms of the negotiations that I did were external, but I wound up not taking the job. So, and in that case, I can tell you in that case, what I did was I first looked into what startup packages for people in a similar position were looking like. So fortunately, I've got friends who, we started going through this process at around, I started going through the process a little bit after they did and knew what they had gotten. So that's one, because you kind of want to, these are people in some cases you wind up competing with, so you don't want to start behind them. So it helps to know that. But the most important thing for your negotiation is really very liberally thinking about it. What is going to take for you to be successful in the next 3 to 4 years, such that you generate robust data and you write competitive grants in 3 or 4 years, and you know what the cost of doing business in terms of hiring personnel and how expensive your experiments turn out to be, and you put all those together. So those are things that I factored into that. And I'd had a friend who had actually been hired at the same institution about a year before, and after my negotiation, she told me what she had asked for. And in fact, she had gone in so low that they wondered what was wrong with her, because she was worried about, because it's a concern, right? I mean, here you are, a fresh investigator looking for a job. you don't want to scare people away by asking for more than you think is necessary. That's where I think putting feelers out and finding out what the going rate currently is, really does help. But at the end of the day, it's a negotiation. So if a place is really interested in you, and they don't like the number, well, it's a starting point. It's where you start the discussion. But I think that you make sure that you know what it's going to take, what you think it's going to take for you to be successful, and that's what you ask for, and then negotiations can begin. But it also helps to figure out what's going on around you.
So I definitely agree with what he said, and in addition to that, not all department chairs or the recruitment people know, but they have an understanding, ballpark understanding of what you will need as a starter. I mean, they hired people before, they know the startup package, so you know what you need, but at the same time, you cannot really ask a lot or a lot less than what's average for your own area. So they know that, you know that, but there are things that, increases the likelihood of you're getting a little bit more than what you expect, or getting more personnel help if you have a funding with you. So mine was funny because I started negotiations before I got a KO award notification. But they knew that, it scored higher, but, I didn't really get the grant that time. So by the time we were close to the end of our negotiations, I got the KO award. And everything has changed after that point. So not everything, but, it was higher. Medical school added more, because the department come up with certain startup budget, and then if they want to, actually the medical school, if they have an agenda, personalized medicine is an agenda of medical school right now, and then what I do is really fits in the personalized medicine idea. So the department chair went out of her way and made the point that this faculty will need more startup because she's in the personalized medicine area, she has funding. Now they added more money into the pot, which gives me the freedom to hire a lab manager immediately, which if you took this class or if you covered this, I think it was a smart thing to do within the first couple of years, because you really don't want to spend time on mentoring someone when you're trying to get your research program going. So recruiting a lab manager was a good thing, and that gave me, my care work gave me the leverage for an extra personnel, like a postdoc, so I can recruit a postdoc, and so that kind of stuff. So funding helps, long story short. But what I thought about when I was making my budget was, again, similar labs, my friends, what they asked for, what devices they needed, what can I actually get from the warehouse for free or for less money and still usable. And I freak out when I spend money. I still have that nervousness. I'm like, is it going to be enough for the next 5 years? Because K doesn't bring lots of research money. You cannot purchase devices and stuff. So I'm being very cheap within my first year right now. I'm not buying a lot of stuff. What I did was, as a start, I map out my experiments for the first year with the samples I had from human subjects and with the pilot grants I'm planning to write. So there were 4 experiments planned out for the first year with the lab manager. So we just sit down and think about what we need as reagents, what we need as, do we need a blotting system, PCR system, do we need a cryostat, do we need a flow cytometry, and that kind of stuff. So we just planned it out, and then we first look for neighboring labs if we can use their devices before spending our money. Is there any cores in the Shelby building that we can actually pay for hours? Is it more profitable? And my lab manager, thanks God, turned out to be the cheapest person in the world too. So that helped a lot. She did a lot of research in terms of what cores could be used, or make good relationships with other labs, and we can use a cryostat instead of spending $30,000 right after. And so that kind of stuff, just being cheap is good the first year, but I think mapping out experiments for me worked for me because we didn't really buy a bunch of stuff that we will not use for the next 2-3 years. We have stuff that we know will be used for the next 2 years. Who knows, we will purchase more stuff, but so yeah, plan better, I guess, is the whole idea.
Okay, I have a question about how you
hired your lab manager? And
Yeah.
was that like a easy process for you?
I don't think it was easy. I wouldn't call it, but I don't think it was hard either. So I interviewed a lot, and there were so many things going to an interview. I never hired a person my whole life before, so it was my first experience. And you cannot really read people. You can talk to your mom and dad, your boss, and who should I recruit or hire, but there's not really a good answer for that. It's just for me, it was more like, of course the credentials has to be there, right? They need to know what you're doing and they need to execute that. They need to have good references. Okay, fine, there are 10 people like that in your table, so you need to decide who you're going to give the job. For me, it was really, okay, credentials are there. Can I get along with this person? It's just like the social interaction part of things. Because I know so many PIs, so many lab managers don't talk to each other well, and it just creates another sea of problems. So for me, first credentials, second really, can I get along with that person? Can we just, handle the disagreements? And it's just still hard to know, but there are, when you start interviewing, like, oh, definitely not. You're like maybes, and then, oh yeah, maybe this will really work. So you have that feeling, I think.
My experience was different. I'm like I said, I'm an immunologist, and we work with a lot of mice. And the reality is the most important thing for me was somebody who was very good with that kind of stuff. And I did a search and got a number of candidates, and none of them was going to cut it. I lucked out because shortly after hiring me, my chair took the job as chair at Columbia, and his lab manager was looking for a job, and she's got tremendous experience. The thing is, as the investigators, at least in my head, I knew what my lab manager was going to make. And I was wrong, because you gotta pay for what you want. But I can tell you, 1 year in, so I hired a lab manager who was very experienced and who's like very efficient and already knew the ins and outs of the UAV system. And so I gotta be honest with you, that I hate to admit this, but there's a lot that goes into keeping my lab running that I don't know how to do. Like, if she doesn't show up, we gotta wait until she comes back to work. just because she came in with already knowing all this stuff, very well connected and everything, and it's really made a difference for me. So I would say you prioritize based on what your most important needs are, and make sure that those are being met. And bear in mind that it may not always come at a price, but it pays itself back in terms of how much pressure it takes off you and how efficient your lab gets going from the get-go. So,
Just curious, did you guys, before actually entering the process, consider anyone besides the lab manager, and then just as you got further along, then decided to go the lab manager route?
I at least figured I would, so lab manager, technician, I guess you could kind of say to me one, but I did imagine hiring someone, with, a certain skill set to help along with that. So I've got a friend who's been doing this for about 7 years now. She just got promoted to associate professor and everything, and has never really had a lab manager. She had a technician, and he worked there for a couple of years until he got into medical school, and she never hired anybody to replace him. She's had a bunch of students, and that's pretty much it, and does well and is very productive. And so, and that works, for her. And so it's not a necessity. You see what I'm saying? Again, it comes back to what your most important needs are. And for me, was that. And so if it's not something, I would argue that if it's not something you need, then you don't. But most people do. you don't need somebody like that.
Yeah, but to give you an example, again, we started with some type of awards or grants, and for a KRL1, just to start that as an assistant or a very junior faculty, you have to make a lot of planning. So you won't really have time for someone or mentoring, and you don't want to hire a PhD or postdoc that you cannot really provide help. It will kill you inside. It will kill the person also, that you're kind of messing their career up, because I mean they just like come under working for you, but then you don't have time. So that's the worst thing I think you can do. So I couldn't take that responsibility. So then what you can do is you can hire someone, as he mentioned, as experienced, and you trust them. They can run the lab for you. Ordering is a whole thing, you know, just like it takes so much time learning the Oracle system, and you don't have time for that. You really have to start your studies. And other things. I mean, running the lab is a hard thing anyway. So that made my mind in terms of I need to hire someone that I don't have to mentor. I can teach techniques in one day, or she already knows anyways, but mentoring is a different art. Mentoring is just, you really have to be committed to it. You cannot mess with people's careers. And hopefully maybe within the next 3-4 years, when I feel I'm ready, my lab is running smoothly, we have a better plan, and my studies are going well, and then I'm ready for a student. For postdoc, when I think about hiring a postdoc, when you think about postdocs, there are some postdocs who doesn't want to become PIs, but they want to do research, and they want to contribute to the big team of research, or the team of researchers. So you can always have this type of people telling them, I won't have a lot of time mentoring you, but we can definitely write papers, stimulate your science, progress your science. You won't maybe learn a lot of things from me, but at the same time, you can always increase or enlarge your horizon by learning techniques by yourself with the lab manager, and we can write and contribute. PhD is, I think, a little bit more risky at this level. What do you think?
Yeah. Because like, I don't remember if this is still a policy or not, but doesn't the graduate school mandate that the PI has to have funding in place for like at least 3 years?
The chairman will dictate that you can't take a student unless you can assure funding for X number of years. So different departments will differ in that.
Yeah, because I was wondering how big these startup packages even are.
Yeah, so I was given an opportunity to hire a PhD or a postdoc also. They would, give it for my start. So I can use my startup funds, part of it, for hiring personnel other than my manager, like postdoc and PhD, and cover their salaries. I don't think graduate school has a rule. I mean, you definitely have to provide money for it, but if your department is agreeing to your money, yeah, it would be fine.
What else? What other questions? Or I'll keep going.
So this is less of about negotiating at institutions and more of I guess negotiating in your personal life. Like you mentioned your husband. Well, like you mentioned, your husband is also a researcher, and kind of that. And I have no idea what your life is, but for
She's not a
example,
Thankfully, she's not a scientist.
if you have a non-scientist partner or spouse or what have you, and so where you go, ultimately, they're going to have some kind of say in. So how do you kind of navigate those conversations?
Don't get married. No. No. I'm not the one to. I'm not the one. I think that's a personal issue and decision. Your situation is not going to be like mine. So I always defer to the family side. I mean, I think I try to make sure that is in order before, what I'm saying? It's kind of weird, but if mama ain't happy, nobody is really. And so I kind of, that's where like you said, it's a personal thing, but that's where I start. Always I had a friend who, he's, the way he described it, his wife has mother-in-law issues. And so when he was job searching, when he was starting his job search, she basically took out a map and she drew a circle. And you couldn't look for a job anywhere within that radius because his mom lived right in the center.
so no, it's true, and so those things happen, but it's a personal thing, and that's how I did it. But nobody, I don't think anybody can help you with that decision.
No, seriously, like
We had the 1,000-mile rule. We can't be within 1,000
Yeah.
like I don't know how it's different with in a university setting versus like corporations and stuff, but like when it comes like how much leeway do they have here? Like can they guarantee a spot for my kids in the child development center or no?
Nothing is guaranteed. I mean, as far as where all the places I interviewed, so I have had a really hard time because my husband is a researcher here at faculty, and I am, and we are both so proud of our work, and that makes us happy. And we also are the people who wants to have a big family, so I want to have 2-3 kids, and I want to have a big family, and so our conversations was that somebody has to take the hit. There are really no win-win, not no win-win, but maybe 10% of the time the two PIs have multiple R1s or 2 R1s and they go for interview. Yes, they will get the job. They will get the job they wanted with the startups and everything. We didn't have that. And most of the faculty recruits, I mean, they don't have it. One person has a bigger grant money, one person doesn't have enough for the institution. Somebody has to take the hit, but my chance was, or I was lucky that he already had his position here when I was a postdoc. But it came to a point, as I said before, I started interviewing other institutions, and he said, let's do this, let's take the risk and see what they can provide for us. I'm not going to tell you to stay here just to stay here if you don't have anything you like, or you have, startups or anything that you can use for future. And we started interviewing, and there are institutions who liked him better, and they didn't like me. And then I was the trailing wife if you take that position. They call it trailing, right? And then there are institutions who liked me better than him and not him, and then he was going to be that. It's just a compromise. It's just, if you want to live somewhere really bad, like I want to live in Miami, let's say, and then he will be the trailing husband, and he's going to say, I'll suck it up, and she will do the good science, I will do my work, we'll have a family, it's going to be warmer here, let's say. And it's just so many compromises. Again, it's very personal, it's just you just need to accept that there's going to be compromises, either your side or his side. Nothing is perfect, I guess. It won't work that way. Very rare.
See, also I know people, if it's a larger city, there's multiple institutions, and they will, sometimes there's a better fit. Maybe one of them wants to go to Emory, but there's something Georgetown for the spouse or something. That's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that too. Some of you know that my husband is also a scientist. We were recruited here together on separate research programs. We were just happy to be in the same state, never mind the same building, which is what it turned out to be. But we kept looking for a place until it was the place that wanted us both as independent researchers. And we just kept looking. And we were fortunate to be recruited here.
So how would you say that compares to, I'm not, judging you or anything, but like, no, I'm just saying, but how is it too that I feel like it seems like it's a little more difficult to do that in this climate.
I wouldn't say that it is any more difficult. Again, the science speaks for itself, as you say.
Right.
When you're working hard, we didn't have children at the time. We now have 2. We had them after we came, before tenure, as they have. And we had that 1,000-mile rule. We could not live within 1,000 miles of any other baby. Wanted to stay married. And we just made it work. I know that sounds trite, but it was one foot in front of the other, yin and yang, Summers were terror because we didn't have that kind of summer care. Once the kids were out of daycare and into school, that summer is kind of like no man's land. So we would literally split the day. I would work until about 5 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. He would do the night shift, but I would still be bringing my work home.
We didn't sleep for years doing that.
Yeah.
But it's what you do.
Yeah, and also back to your daycare question for EAB, you don't have a priority. I mean, you have to be a EAB employee obviously to give your child to EAB, but when you take a job here, they won't reserve a spot for your child. As a matter of fact, it took 18 months for my child to get, the first child to get in the daycare while I was at EAB.
Yeah, I was just using that as like an example because it's not like, you know, you're a, like if you're a lawyer, as long as you get clients, you can set up your own practice. You're kind of, with us, it's like, even if I won the lottery, I still by law really can't set up my own lab in my basement, you know?
No.
And so it's like,
No, but you can ride through UAB as a gift.
yeah.
And then see what they will say.
Yeah, it's like, that's like, it's frustrating. It's like, you can't be like a Edison or a Frankenstein anymore. You have to like, you're not really independent. You're like stuck to the university.
Well, there are industry stuff that I can do if you think, you know.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah, but the Atlanta, I mean, Emory and Georgia Tech is really good and example. So I was interviewing Emory, and Emory didn't have anything for my husband, and they were trying to help really bad. And then they called out all the universities around Georgia area and see, we have this recruit that recruit is bringing her husband. Can you just check if you have something? So they try, but it's really, really hard now. It's just funding is limited, positions are limited. It's just, even though they try, most of the time, you're empty-handed.
What else?
Are you both tenure track, I assume, and did you always know you wanted to be tenure track when you started here? Yes and yes.
So for me, it's different. It's just, I really didn't push for tenure track as the first priority. I pushed for a good lab and startup. And it came with it, but it wasn't my role. I could be, not tenure track, but do the work I have been doing. And because in medical school, to be honest, I don't know what tenure means really. I mean, it's just.
Oh, you don't.
It's just, I don't know, you just always have to have money to run your lab. And you can be tenured, but it's tough in medical school. It's just, you have to have grants. And then if you have grants, I think you'll be tenured in.
No, like I said, for me it was yes. Yeah, I am tenure track and I did want tenure track position.
I have a question, because I also have a clinical background and did my PhD. Did you look at any, what's the word I'm thinking of, like a dual appointment positions anywhere? Like maybe you were in at the PT school and you wanted them to negotiate to get you a lab in the School of Medicine?
Yeah, so, I didn't look for those jobs, but the smaller schools I applied for was mostly traditional PT departments with research agendas. They try to become a research department more than a clinical department, or maybe 60-40 kind of thing. But the problem is being a research PI, or if you want to be a PI with grant funding, you cannot devote your time to clinic. It takes a lot of time. And they will love that if you, go practice or teach classes for clinical purposes. It's just almost like it's impossible for you to write grants and then run your lab. You need to be realistic. You always tell in the interview, if I have to do that, maybe I will do it. But don't even say that, because if you start doing that, the whole PI NIH money thing goes out of the window because it's not realistic. I mean, even I don't have any teaching responsibility right now. I think I don't have enough time to finish my work with a lab manager thinking about it. And, so you can do that, but then you will be a teacher researcher, but not really a researcher. Not big PI. Big PI is not the right word. A PI, a research PI. It's hard to do both, at least for me.
Let me just shout out to Hudson Alpha. If you guys have any questions, just chat them or put them in the chat box, and we'll make sure they get asked. Other questions? What's been the biggest surprise for each of you?
biggest surprise in our new job?
Yes, and starting the faculty position, what's been the biggest surprise?
And this should not have surprised me, but the bureaucracy.
The bureaucracy.
It's, I mean, yeah, I'm humbled by how long certain things take to get done, or how much red tape you gotta go through.
So give an example.
Huh?
Give an example.
Okay, so things, for example, well, I guess this is the bureaucracy too, but so I I moved into space that someone had like moved out of, and the things that we could use that we kept, and things that we didn't want to keep. And there's a file cabinet in my office that we asked to get moved. I think about 6 months ago. You see, are you recording this? Because I'm not sure why they're putting this out there, but and then just the certain things that I guess I never realized how much. The other thing that really surprised me was how much you have to pay back to the institution to get certain things done. I remember when I took this course where you talked about not realizing that you would have to purchase lab shoes.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize.
I remember that story and how upset I was.
Yeah, but and I'm thinking, well, so fortunately I didn't have to, because the space I went to have. But what I didn't realize was that, if I've got a computer here and a printer there, and I want UAV to network them, I gotta pay $260 for each Ethernet port to be opened up. So I mean, it seemed a little counterintuitive to me that where somehow, I mean, I am getting this money to start my lab going and everything, but if I want to outfit my lab at the institution I'm at, I somehow gotta pay the institution back to get it set up. And so when they told me what it was going to cost for the Ethernet port, now I'm trying to figure out how I can go without a particular Ethernet port, because again, so that's one thing that I just didn't realize, that there are certain infrastructural things that I would have to cover the cost of. I thought it just came with it. So it wasn't cheap, but it was.
That's good.
Exactly, so I have the same problem, and I didn't even know, and I cannot call an IT person, and a person would come fix your computer. You have to pay for a yearly contract for an IT person from your startup, just for them to come and look at your internet. So these are all additional costs to run your lab, other than buying devices or reagents. So that was really surprising. The second thing that surprised me was that we always hear about how clinical departments work in terms of, there are doctors, there are researchers, sometimes they talk to each other, sometimes they don't. And it surprised me that how much doctors are removed from research in practice. I knew that before, but just seeing it as a researcher in a clinical department was really surprising for me, because we are working towards the same goal, but we're really separated, because they practice, we do research, and that was surprising for me. Now the departments are trying to change that culture, but I thought that was kind of out of ordinary to see doctors don't have anything to do with research, and the researchers only do research, and that was another shock. The third shock was a good shock. So we have this incentive program in our department. I didn't know it existed in traditional cell biology. I don't know if they have it, because we never were PIs. We didn't know that. But if you write papers, present in conferences, I guess this is being in a clinical department, it's really important for doctors to be involved in research. So it's written for them to give them an incentive program if they're involved with science, but then we are kind of benefiting from it more, because all we do is just do that academic activity. So that was surprising. Incentive program, so you have points when you do that kind of stuff, conferences, lectures like this one, even giving me points. It's a service, academic thing. So, but the good thing is you can add that incentive points to your startup, which as a researcher, which you can buy extra reagents, go to conferences, travel around the world to other conferences, and that was a good surprise for me. I didn't know that existed.
And I could add the positive surprise that I got, and I think this is something I could encourage you to look at as you job search into, is my division has a really outstanding administrative support structure. And, again, when you're starting out and getting elaborating and you're getting in and trying to write grants early on and that kind of thing, it really, really does help. And so if it's something you have control over and you could actually check out as you're interviewing, I mean, it really, I've found that it's been extremely beneficial to have that kind of support structure, administrative support structure with the department. It makes your life a whole lot easier, because believe me, this kind of courses really help, and it's nice that we have them now, but there are certain things that you're not going to learn as a postdoc about the process. And having someone who's gone to this with other investigators, who just knows who to ask, where you don't have to be doing all that yourself, it really does help. So the admin support structure in the division has been good, and that's something I would encourage you to really consider as you're looking for jobs. It does knock a lot of hours off your day.
And what was also surprising is like how much less distraction you have in your life when you're your own person. Well, I mean, you have distractions from the department, go to this meeting, that meeting, but most probably you have this protected time, nobody touch you. So that my first year, I was freaking out, like nobody calls me, nobody asks something. I'm just like, they left me alone here, but oh, that's super nice, because I don't want people to want something every day. It's just like you're yourself, you have so much time to think about your science, and it's stressful sometimes because you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too less, too much? You're never sure, because there's not really a control mechanism behind you like your mentor or other things. You just have to make your own path thing. But I really like it. I really like being independent from other people, that nobody can actually mess with me during the day. So I can do my work. So that was a surprise.
So overall, I guess in your first year, would you say that your research productivity is less or compromised because of all these extra things, mm-hmm. or were you able to kind of maintain your experiments and still get data, just get grants?
So I got lucky. I think that was truly luck, because when I took the position, there was this email from a random medical student saying, I want to come do a summer rotation with you. I'm interested in spinal cord injury and skeletal muscle biology, and I want to be a rehab doctor. That was the email. He knows what he wants to do. And I said, that's great, because I have lots of samples, and I have 2 experiments already planned, and we are purchasing the devices for it with my lab manager. And then he said, but there's a hurdle there. I have to write this medical grant to National Medical Association or whatever. Can you help me with that? And I looked at it. I said, how much work? He said, well, it's only 3 pages. There's going to be a good project. I said, the project's already written, so it's going to take my one night. It's going to edit. I'm going to edit. So it's going to be 2-day work for me. And then it's going to be a 2-3 month work that's coming back to me. So we invested on it, and he got the grant with a high score, and then he came this summer, and he was so good. He was trained as a geneticist, and he was trained as a geneticist, and he went back to medical school. So he had the master's degree already. He knows how research works. He came, started experiments, he produced data, worked for 2 papers in 3 months, and he left. It never happens. That's what I heard from my husband. It never happens. And so here you go. I mean, it was like the first start of my lab that time. He came around May. We started lab in April. So here we go. We have 2 papers now from just the data he produced. But, so it may not happen now. You may not have that student. Although, when I think about it, if I didn't have him, having a lab manager who knows how to order, who knows how PAD works, really helped me because everything was smoother. So we actually was able to start experiments around May, 1 month later. Because we have one piece of equipment, we already wrote the experiment for it, we started doing it while the others are arriving. But I have, my husband had a different experience. His first year was not that productive. because he made bad choices in terms of spending his money, and he made bad choices recruiting someone. Maybe he didn't make bad choices. It was his luck too. You know, sometimes we don't know. It's just kind of like unfair to say he made bad choices, but it worked for me. It didn't work for him. So he may go the opposite paths very quickly.
I mean, I think, well, yeah, we're not all that lucky. And so I think with every transition, every career transition, really, productivity most likely takes a hit, you know, within the first year. And I think we went through that. So the important things you do to kind of minimize the effects of that, like you said, if you really vet people before you take them on, and know at least the way, you know, because we have access to the GBS program and getting students that way, you know, rotation students who come in and they're trying to get their feet wet. I think at UAB especially, we're doing a much better job now of recruiting students who's got research experience and know what they want to do, and those things help. But so, yeah, there's certain things you can do to really help minimize just how much of a hit it takes. I mean, the other challenge I think you'll find, and that's, and I'm saying this to you because this was my experience, is when it's all said and done, the best pair of hands, you know, they swing when you walk, right? They're your hands. And I've struggled with letting go. Yeah, I'm still doing experiments, and I expect to still be doing experiments for quite some time. But you also, despite all those things, and you're being worried about, you know, taking a hit in productivity and moving things along as fast as you can, you kind of also have to allow the people that you take on to grow. And so I would say if you know that you're working as hard in your office, in your lab, or wherever, as you know you can, and you're training people and they're making progress, maybe baby steps initially, then, you know, you take that and you start planning, you know, the next phase of your lab around the rate at which, you know, you're producing. But naturally, if you, once you transition from postdoc to PI, productivity is going to take a hit. If you're a PI and you leave and you go someplace else, initially, it's just natural. But you do your best to try to minimize it.
You kind of brought up a point that I wanted to get to.
And I'm glad
so you guys both did your postdocs here and then transitioned to faculty positions. So you didn't really have to like move to another state or do that kind of thing.
Right.
Were you able to continue like doing work, doing research with your postdoc mentor before your new lab, all the supplies were ordered? Or like how was that kind of transition process? And then also for you, because I know you did do the big move, like how much kind of downtime did you have for, you know, packing up your house, packing up whatever samples or things you could take, moving, you know, and then getting settled in the new place? Like what, I guess I kind of want to know a little bit about both of those situations.
I think Lisa's answer is probably more helpful to you unless you're planning on staying here.
I'm just fine.
Yeah, but
I have options.
That's good.
Personally, I was dying to cut the cord from a mentor as soon as I could. And so knowing because I stayed at UAB, and you're right, I did mention the loss in productivity, but I'm pretty sure it could have been a lot worse had I gone someplace else, right? It's just a natural part of moving and all that stuff. But what I was able to do was, knowing the start date and everything, and knowing the lay of the land here at UAB, then you start putting things in place so that on day one, you put it to go and run. I'll be honest with you, it still took 3 months, despite my best efforts, to try to get everything rolling. So, yeah, that's one, I guess, advantage, if you will, of being in the same place. But you still, and again, I would advise you on every level, if you do stay in the same place, to as much as you can cut those kind of work-related ties with your mentor. I mean, because like I said, until you start getting grants funded, you're going to be addressing it and addressing it and addressing it. And the more that you can show that you really are your own person, and you want to do that as soon as you possibly can. So, get away from that. But you start making sure your own transition and taking responsibility for your life. You're an adult now, you grow up, and So yeah, I would really, that's the one thing I would say, just cut that cord if you do stay in the same place. If you go someplace else, I mean, you still want to cut it. It physically looks like it's more, and that's the other thing too, because you move someplace else, but you call in your mentor every time you meet a hurdle, that does happen too. You still haven't separated.
So I finished my postdoc and I left the lab. You know, it was not necessarily, you know, I just didn't like my lab, but I really wanted to remove myself. None took the new position. And it took me, now I'm calculating in November, December, 4 months before hiring someone and ordering. So there would be that period that you cannot really do anything other than trying to hire someone and think about what you're going to buy for your lab. Again, even like after hiring, we had some discussions about what we should buy and stuff. So there would be this delay wherever you go, and even within the evening, you have that period that you cannot really do experiments unless you go back and forth with your old lab and continue experiments there. But I didn't do it.
For me, let's see, we interviewed in June. Came back for a second visit in September, got the offer then. Came back a couple months later, November, and scoped out the lab space, started placing orders for reagents and small equipment, found a place to live. We didn't have that much to move, so, you know, it didn't take long to pack up the apartment and all for it. But let's see, for me, it was pretty straightforward because at that time, my work was very much in vitro, cell culture based, hadn't moved into animal model work yet. My husband, electrophysiologist, as you know, I made you go through those examples. It took him a bit longer to set up the rigs, but starting unpacking boxes it was like Christmas, seriously, it was Christmas time. We came in and I just opened up boxes, started plugging stuff in, put together my chairs, it still bothers me, all these years later. But I was rocking and rolling and putting points on a graph by March. And I have to say, that first piece of data that you get in your own lab is gold. It's gold. It's so gold.
It's gold.
It doesn't matter, right? I mean, you did it.
Do you know also what is like so gold about like your first data? So I never had this pleasure. I mean, I'm really nerdy inside. Like people would show their lab people's faces on their data, and then they would just say, oh, you know, I'm the PI. This person, awesome, stellar person did the data for me kind of thing. I would just like have this pleasure showing people like who worked for you. I never had the chance because I was a postdoc and a PhD. Now like I'm going to conferences, I have these two people help me excel in my work and I really appreciate them, and I always thought that it's nice to just put their faces, their big faces, saying this is so-and-so did the work, the first experiment in my lab, you know, they handled this, they just rock it. And so that just gives me like a pleasure. I just like get excited about it every time I do it.
I have a question. I know the both of you mentioned that you need to separate yourself from your mentor at the core. But since you two transition here, does your mentor still try to keep that connection going? Like they also have to be complicit in that with you. So does your mentor still call and ask for things or anything like that?
No, I mean mine doesn't. Not that we have a good relationship, and it's really up to you how you make your boundaries. You can always keep a professional, respectful relationship with everyone you want, but you need to make sure that what is his or hers, what's yours. In order to do that, you need to really professionally cut the research. Maybe you can collaborate in the future, but again, collaboration is kind of like collaboration, not necessarily working for the person. It's just you're collaborating equally, hopefully, to your project. So we're not really calling each other, but I sometimes say, hey, this muscle showed this. What do you think about it? Your experience. I believe, I trust your experience. And he's like, oh, that's very interesting. I think this may be it. But he's not expecting I'm going to include him in the project. It's just like his mentorship, his friendship his experiences, it's just that kind of conversations. Getting feedback from him because I believe in his science and expertise kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, by current color, I really don't mean that you have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Didn't come across that way. I mean, and like I said, as well connected as my employees and these. And I said this, when you interview, no matter where you interview, whether it's here or, across the globe, people are going to ask you how you're going to set up those types. And my answer was always, these projects are mine. They have been mine because you really did allow me to develop for myself. But that person is a resource for you for the rest of your life, and because I stayed working, I'm still friends with this guy. His wife teaches my son piano. We're okay. But I just got my own program, and he has his. And if there's anything I think he could be helpful with, I'm gonna reach out. And that's the case. That was going to be the case no matter where I go.
But I think we also, I cannot speak on behalf of you, but we're also lucky that, we didn't work for very maybe egoistic people. I have maybe, maybe I did too, but I don't know, it didn't hurt me in a professional setting. But you always hear about horror stories of other people's mentors and they're like, they're not so many, no matter what you do, if a person is that way, it's going to be a lot harder to transition or cut ties or, or cut data or papers and seniorship and correspondingship and that kind of stuff. So I think the only thing we need to remember is do everything professionally and nicely. I think being nice always works at the end. I don't think like fighting and holding grudges and it just doesn't really give both sides anything at the end. It's just like sometimes you have to suck it up. It happens, but just professionally, slowly move, separate yourself. That's it. And they know, all PI know that. Now, I'm a very junior, small PI, but even I know that. How should I, respond, how should I professionally act towards my workers? It is a common sense thing.
Other questions? Does either of your departments have a structured mentoring, faculty mentoring team?
Yes.
For each of you?
So mine does. In MCP, you're required to have a faculty mentoring committee, at least 2 individuals. They can be from anywhere within the institution. And so, what that entails is you're required, I think, or sorry, required to meet with them at least a few times a year. But what's nice about it is, whether or not you wind up in a place where that's a requirement, I mean, you really still need mentorship to guide you to those first few years. And that's another thing I would say you look for as you're interviewing is a place where there are people sufficiently knowledgeable of your area of expertise that can mentor you through those first years. But the department pathology does have a structure like that.
Awesome. How about for your department?
So I don't think we are there yet. We have a program and it's not very well structured. And again, I forgot to mention, it was surprising for me. I think it's not a big culture in my department because it's mainly a clinical department. So, but this year they made a big move pushed by medical school dean saying you're recruiting these new faculty, you really need to have a good mentoring program, which we have stellar researchers there, but, which I would love to be mentored by. But they didn't have the program. So, but I think what you need to do if you are in the same situation with me, you need to be vocal about it, not rude about it, but just tell your department chair that we're always work for research faculty mentoring. And also, I really don't know what they expect from me. I mean, there are tenure guidelines, but in a clinical department, it's really like, should I do more of that? Should I do more of this? Kind of thing. So you need research mentoring a little bit, not technical research mentoring, but they can tell you how productive you should be, but also how you can actually work towards tenure if you're a tenure track position. I don't have a strong one yet, but they're now trying to make it better.
But again, seek out mentors. I mean,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
whether or not there's a
Yeah,
there's a
it doesn't have to be in
structure
the department, definitely.
people have gone through this and have been very successful at it. There's no reason for you to not try to, benefit from that. It really does help. So.
What about the sense of community, I guess, as a early faculty? Because, we have like in grad school, there's like grad student association, all these graduate student organizations. In postdocs, we got the postdoc association. That you're you're forced, maybe not forced, but you're facilitated into interacting with people at the same career stage as you and kind of learning from each other and, hopefully helping propel each other forward. So once you get to that junior faculty level, is there some type of community or peer group, besides just like.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it comes down to like your personal goals, right? For me, like I said, I know too many successful immunologists to not tap into that. And so I'll give you an example. So currently, there's a friend who's been a PI, actually just got promoted to associate professor, and we have like once a month, every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on Teams, like we just meet and we talk about what's going on in our labs, we talk about the science, we see how we can bounce it, how we can help each other. The IM and Shelby and this Explore, I mean, I was strategically placed on that floor for because of the course of immunology study, and we've now put together this course of immunology lab conference where it's basically work in progress type of deal. So, and again, I pushed really hard for them to start it up again. They had been going, but they had stopped for a second. But I see the benefits for my science and for my lab, from those kinds of things. So again, like I said, you seek out those things, you push for those things, you get that kind of input because it strengthens your papers, it strengthens your grants, and all together, it makes you a better scientist, make you a better scientist. And so, those should be the priority, because you really want to be the best form of yourself, right? You want to be the best scientist you can be. And one of the easiest ways to approach that is to get input and from the people who have been successful at it, because I look at it, I want to be you. In a sense, you should say, I want to be that successful. And so that's kind of what you do. So you seek out the people that you think can benefit, can help you. And I will say this too. I've never emailed any one of these, any senior faculty and said, can I come talk to you? And they said no. About whatever it is. You answer. So most people, again, most people are just people good ones to me. but most people are really open to helping other about that. That's one of the nice things about UAB as well.
So separate from research, I totally agree with what he said, and there are different communities like faculty senates and that kind of stuff that you can be involved with, but it may be just like too much for you the first year or second year just to serve in the communities. But also we started, not really started, but we have this woman group, Women in Academia, within we kind of choose the people we like, and then we just go for coffee, dinners, or whatever. And then what we do is actually we talk about what we are doing and how we are perceived in the department as a female faculty, and then what are the challenges we have in science and conferences and papers and in our own department. And it's just a womanly interaction that always worked for me socially too. It just kind of gives you power inside too, just to be with the other women faculty. Not necessarily you have to be only women or males, but it's just a different perspective. I like to hear their stories, how they take care of their kids, and you can always make your own circle and make it professional plus really social. It doesn't have to be professional all the time. It's just like live interactions with people also feeds your soul and like keep you going. You cannot do science 24 hours. You just need some social time. Social time with a scientist is even better than social time with non-scientists.
That's what conferences are fun.
That's right.
I have a question.
So my question was about calling something your project. I think along with, your postdoc, you may have pitched an idea to your PI. It's totally your idea, you may not have pursued it, or maybe did an experiment or two to establish that, but you never went anywhere. Do you think it's going to be a conflict if you start a project, and how would you communicate with your PI down the line?
So for me, when I first interviewed for the postdoc position, we had a very hard conversation saying that I said, look, I would love to work with you, but I wouldn't really pursue spinal cord injury. And I know you don't have a research line for that, but I will try to help you. Also in your experiments, I will definitely be existing in the lab and help you with biopsies and everything. But also I would like to pursue this on the side because this is what I'm training for. And so he thought about it, and then he said, but let's think about it. He didn't say yes first time. So he thought about it. 1 week later, we met again. This was at the very beginning. We didn't know each other. And then he said that, look, this is how it may work for me. He said, these are the experiments or these are the studies going on in my lab. If you're coming to my lab as a postdoc, I would like to be involved with this part. But then at the same time, write your own study, get an IRB, and I have some pot of money for you to pursue this. And then you can write your own grant after that. What do you think about it? So, I said, okay, let me go think about it. And so we just it was back and forth, and then we decided that that will work for both of us. And when I started, we did the plan. That plan was towards what exactly we talked about at the beginning. I will help you with your experiments, but then I have this own idea I want to pursue on the side, which will require extra time on my time. And he said that fine, and that's how I did it. I didn't say I'm not going to do anything you want, I'm going to do my thing. It's just like a come into the middle together, what will work for him, what will work for me. And it worked really good because him seeing me come into the middle helped him to help me, and then me seeing him that he's understanding my goals make me more passionate about working for his project too. So it was a good marriage at that time, and it worked that way.
Yeah, I think communication. That we established those boundaries early on.
Yeah.
And if you work for somebody you think is gonna really do that to you, then you gotta think about it. You're working on a project that's hopefully gonna be your stepping stone, right? And this thing that you're working on that's gonna launch you. So if you got some other idea, and if it's gonna get in the way, then it's just an idea, right? And if you haven't done it, then it's just an idea. 9 out of 10 ideas we have go wrong. So I think the focus ought to be whatever it is you have going, how you can best use that to launch, and if it's something that you could accomplish while doing all that and get going. So now you got 2 angles starting out your lab, and you have a PI who is open to that, and there's not, like I said, you communicated and that you're not going to get really talky or whatever, then go for it. But it comes down to what you can take on and how well you communicate these things. You establish those relationships with also you put stuff, but you establish those bonds and you move. But I still say an idea is just an idea, and you can't really claim to an idea until you execute it. And so, but you prioritize and you focus on the thing that is going to launch you. And if it is that idea, then obviously it has to be yours. But communication, make sure you set those up.
So the communication, one thing that I wasn't aware until I took this class and also get suggestions from other people, have something in writing with your conversation. Not necessarily he's going to lie to you or you're going to lie to him. It's just for her. It's just if you write it down you save it and he saves it, when it comes to a conflict, there are people who forget about stuff, and PIs have a million things going on in their mind. Who knows, maybe. So you can always say, hey, look, I understand your point, but then when we talk about it at first, this is what we planned, and this is how I planned in my mind. And then when he or she sees that, if there's, he's or she's a reasonable person, it would be yes, we talked about that, we agreed on it, I'm sorry, or like, okay, let's move on kind of thing. So get something in writing. That plan is good for that, you have a plan.
Another approach too is after a conversation, just send a follow-up thank you email, and just to make sure that we're on the same page. This is what I understood. Again, it gets it in writing, and it gets it kind of a little time delay so people can think about it. And then the mentor can respond back, well, I was thinking this or not. But you've got that out there.
And now we changed the role now, like we are the PI, so there were so many occasions that my lab manager said, look at my face, like, are you crazy? You just told me this a week ago, and now you're telling me the opposite thing. And then you never think that you would do that, but you do it. You're just like, first I have a pregnancy brain. Second, you forget stuff, and then, poor woman there, like, trying to figure out, is she crazy because she said the opposite thing last week. And then I was just saying, but we have it right. I emailed her with the opposite thing I said, and then she's like, look, this was your email. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I suck at this. Yeah, you're right. And let's go back. It's just, it happens. And, when I was a postdoc, sometimes I'm like, how the hell did you forget about this? And it's so possible. I mean, I'm very junior right now. I forget every day something. It's just like, it happens. It's human nature. So now I know, like, not to get mad at people because it happens. And now you have the power. It doesn't mean that you can, step over people. You just go back, look at your writing, and you're just like, yes, I was wrong. Move on, kind of thing.
Other questions? If not, this is when we ask for your parting wisdom. what nuggets of wisdom?
Well,
for them.
No, he's taking the microphone now.
No, I understand because I'm not going to understand. No. So, just from my experience, so I just had my 1-year evaluation, and the thing I didn't realize was how much I left off my CV. I'm saying that to say this. All this goes into your promotion and so every step of the way, anything that seems like an accomplishment, anything you do, write it down. And I was told I should have my CV open all day, every day, and as you agree to do things and you complete things with people, so I would say then that's my bit of advice as far as making sure that you're doing those things that way you're documenting your accomplishments, and everything is an accomplishment. So it makes things a lot easier when you then go up for promotion and tenure. The other thing I would say is, and I hit on it earlier, but you really are going to have to be extremely patient with people and learn how to let people make mistakes and get your head waste some of your money, because that's a part of it. And believe me, once they get it, they're going to appreciate you more for you. So again, you still the best your hands, but you can't do it all. That's why you're a PI and you're including people to your lab. So, I mean, the patient side of it really helps. And the third bit of advice I would give you, and this was actually given to me by somebody, is when you become PI, strive to always have something submitted. A paper, strive to always have something in submission, some result that you're waiting on, from something. And it means that you continually pursuing your goals, okay? The fact that there's something that you're waiting on, the internal grants, the small application and everything, that quick paper with those data that you never thought you would publish because it was on the back burner while you were postdoc. But try it as best you can to always have something in submission. And then, lastly, you went into this because you want to do this, and I think it's the most amazing job in the world. It's now with all these pressures, but enjoy. I mean, it's part of your life, and have fun with it. You prioritize, you do the things you need to do, but enjoy it.
everything you said. Plus, I have two things. One is there's always another good option for you out there. Well, no matter what, it's just maybe it won't work this time, whatever you're looking for. But there's going to be waiting a couple of them, you don't think you have it. There's always going to be a good option there. You will just go find it. So if you believe in yourself, it will all work out. I know that. I can guarantee you that. The second thing is it's more like I always give this encouragement to females. I mean, males is the same thing for me now, but you can always, you can have a good family and be a good scientist. When I was brought up in academia before, there was always this limitation for females. You cannot have a big family, you can have kids, you don't have enough time to do all. You can do everything you want. You can have 2-3 kids, you can have a busy schedule, but you can do it. I mean, it's possible. You can do good science, good babies, everything. So just believe in yourself. Don't limit yourself that you're a scientist, you don't have time. You can do anything. You can do vacations. And I was really biased about like, I want to have a family, I want to have kids because I want to be in academia. It's actually, academia is a good way to be a mom because you're more flexible. For the female faculty or trainees here, don't worry about not having babies. You can have a lot. Males is the same thing. It's just you can have big families as being scientists, and if your wives work, that's fine still. We have time for everything. And be nice to your colleagues and workers and everything. Being nice always will work in academia. Being rude never works.
Well said. Thank you both.
Sure.
And also, I mean, as if anybody ever wants to talk or to
Oh yeah,
I
am in Shelby 5th floor, Shelby 503. And you're in the 6th floor?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come bother you then.
So next week we're going to talk about tenure and promotion. So this is a nice segue.
Oh, wow, you should come back too.
Thank you both.
Sure. Thanks. Can't have any time now. Boy, my first one is a girl.
I know.
The distribution.
No, I used to have my older one at your age.
Oh my God, where is she looking at?
Small little schools anywhere away. Northeast, Midwest.
I'll take it for her. Absolutely. Let's see something different.
No kidding. Well, good luck to her. Okay.
See you later.
Bye all.
Thanks, Hudson Alpha. Hope that worked well. We'll see you next week.